if you wish to attain realization, the first thing to do is be careful. Do not reject your own weaknesses or your own suffering. There is too much weight in it to ignore it. You need, see what I'm trying to say? So you need to slough your skin. That means you need to grow, and there's a painful period, a vulnerable period when you're going to be leaving the old skin behind. Now, coming to the question, which is a separate thing having to do, I said, Rumi says that Panj hesi hast juz in panj hes. An chu zar surkh va in hes ha chu mes. Rumi says, there are 5 senses other than these 5 senses. They are like red gold, and these senses are like copper. So what I'm doing there is I'm taking a poem of his or a line of poetry of his, and I'm showing that in the domain of spirituality, he is going to use the model of alchemy, because clearly if he's mentioning this, there's an alchemy. Alchemy is an interesting thing because it's normally not, it's not done out of thin air, you see, but it can be done out of, will towards goodness or towards surrender. So I gave you the poem earlier that Hafiz said, and the particular line involving alchemy, he says, Gedayi dare maykhana turfa iksirist. Gar in amal bokonid hak zar tawani kad. Gedayi dare maykhana turfa iksirist. Gar in amal bokonid hak zar tawani kad. So in this one he's saying, being a beggar at the door, meaning the door of God, of the wine house, which is the house of ecstasy of God, is a wonderful elixir. So elixir, our word in English, is comes from Greek, comes through Arabic, al-iksir. See, al-iksir is elixir, we say in English, you see. I'm sure you know this word in English, elixir. It means a miraculous substance that comes about from alchemy, you see. So now do you see what he's saying is the elixir he's saying is to be a beggar at the door of the wine house. Gedayi dare maykhana turfa iksiris. Gar in amal bokonid khak zar tawani kad. If you do this work, you can turn dust into gold. So now you have the alchemy of dust into gold. Why dust? Because he's saying you are dust, huh? Because God says he created you from dust. You can turn dust into gold. So that's why I wanted to bring, and earlier I was really focusing more on the poem, and I was focusing on the gold and the copper, but now I'm adding the line where it's about dust turning to gold, because that's another model. In the world, there are people who say there's certain kinds of dirt that can be turned into gold, and Hafiz was aware of this, okay? So if we remember this line from Hafiz, here he's saying, because you're saying, what are the stages? You see, the surrender and poverty, does Prophet Muhammad ﷺ say anything about poverty?
Poverty is my pride.
Poverty is my pride, but this word fakhr, I would translate it as exaltation. Poverty is my exaltation. We're talking about spiritual poverty here. Hafiz says, Gedayi dare maykhana turfa iksiris. So, being a beggar at the door of the wine house, maykhana. Where's maykhana then? What is maykhana? Harabat. Where is it? What does it mean? Okay, and what? It can mean that. It can mean in the Sufi language, Sakohum, Rabuhum, Sharoban Tahuran. So there's the Saki, right? Mm-hmm. The wine house. Sakohum, Rabuhum. Their Lord is pouring. The Lord is essentially Saki. Agreed? So, Sharoban Tahuran, it means two things, either a pure wine or a purifying wine. It can mean either one, like either pure or it purifies you. Here the imagery is the path of ecstasy, we will call it. And ecstasy means that somehow you've transcended your normal limitations, and as a consequence you feel very elated or you feel very drunk because you are having trouble holding on to your persona. Like your persona that you thought was, like your house that you thought was made of bricks, it turns out like it said in the Quran, it was actually made like a spider web. Where does God not say, he says, don't build your house like a spider web, like the spider's house, you remember? He says, don't build your house like this because it will be flimsy. So in this situation, you've drunk the wine. What does this mean to drink the wine? It means that you have to silence the panch hesi has. Panch hesi has juz in panch hes. So there's five senses other than these five senses. So you're going to have to work in the domain of these five senses. And the alchemy is that you are sitting and you are turning to, however you do it, you're focusing on something that is other than the activation of these senses. You are focusing on the quieting of these five senses. Isn't that true? The via negativa is what it's called in the Western world. It's not just a Sufi concept. This is a Latin expression, via negativa. It means the negative way. Yeah, so it means the way of la. See, so we say la ilaha illallah, the way of negation. Huh? So it means the Christians are doing it, the Jewish people are doing it, everyone is doing this. They understand they're going to quiet down the senses and find out what's underneath the senses, under these five senses, you see? And what they will find is they will find that they are gold because they are far more rich in their experience. So like if it's vision, it's far more satisfying. If it's knowledge, it's far more complete and beautiful. If it's the experience of being, the cosmos's being, God's being, even a taste of it is far more rich than my experience of being. You see, I mean, the five senses, they do not have to be stages. They could be particular ways in which individuals experience the golden senses, we'll call them. So typically the golden senses, they are those senses that they belong to the world of spirit, we should say. You see? So do we get the concept? There's now, do we not encounter it in Hadith? لا يزال العبد يتقرب إلي بنوافل حتى أحبه فإذا أحببته كنت سمعه وبصره, right? لسانه ورجله فبي يسمع بي يبصر بينطق بيبطش بيمشي. You see, there's different versions of this hadith. Isn't it about the senses? And isn't it specifically the senses that are transformed? Isn't he saying that and isn't it based on love? So, okay, what I want to bring in here is Hafez is talking about surrender. So the path, what is the path? So in the one path, the path of surrender, Hafez is saying, Gedayi dare maichana turfa exiris. The amazing elixir. See, the elixir you take and you're transformed. The amazing elixir is to be a beggar at the door of the wine house. So, okay, do we understand this model? Means that I would be doing zhikr. Isn't that to be a beggar at I would be doing zhikr? I would be doing the via negativa. La ilaha illallah. You see, or just Allah, Allah, whatever you want. From the divine side, God says, my servant does not stop approaching me with excessive devotion until I love her or him. And when I love him or her, I become what? Ears, his eyes, his tongue, etc. And it is through me that she is hearing, seeing, see? Speaking, grasping, or walking. So here we see the doctrine of love. So the love here was from the divine side, and what caused this to happen is because the servant had been doing this service at the door. Is that not true? La yazal abd yataqarrabu ilayya binawafil, huh? Nawafil, we understand nawafil means something specific, but in English we would just say excessive, meaning a great excess, a great deal of devotion. Whether it's actually a nafilah, but it's just in excess of the 5 prayers, in excess of what's normally done, then that will cause me to love the servant and cause me to do this. So, but psychologically, we could say that let's have a doctrine of the doctrine of one consciousness. They call it in China. There's only one consciousness. People have confused the matter because they each have individual expressions of that. And the one consciousness is very powerful because it is the source of consciousness and experience. So in individuals, it's very weak by comparison. You see? So, to have 5 senses of copper is very easy. It's what we have. We are the higher creatures, are we not? We are the famous human beings who have more going than the animals and so forth, supposedly, right? But we certainly have more capacities, you see. But the doctrine of one consciousness does not require a religious concept. So this is in Chan. Chan Buddhism is the origin of Zen Buddhism, you see. So in China, they had different doctrines. One of them is the school called one consciousness, see. So one awareness. We would agree. We would say one existence. So the idea of wahdat al-wujud or yek wujud. Did our teacher claim that we do not have existence, but we get existence from him? Didn't he claim this, you see? So our teacher agrees with this. And so, again, the notion of alchemy is really a funny thing, because you know how when you get fake jewelry, they might take, let's say they take copper and they gild it, we say. They put gold over it, and then they sell it to you for a lot of money, and then you find out with the mihak, the touchstone, you find out that underneath it's just copper. Agreed? But God has an even funnier story. He says, I'm giving them gold jewelry that's covered with copper. And we will see if they find out. So he's actually reversed the thing. He says, I gave all of them jewelry, And I tricked them, it's copper, and if they would just scratch it, they would find out inside is gold. So just remember this, instead of the fake jewelers of the world who are turning copper with gold on the surface, God has taken gold jewelry and put copper on it. Rumi says, when one of the senses opens, it is like a group of sheep, and the one that jumps over the stream, the nature of the sheep is they will follow it. So we don't need to worry about stages. We simply need to worry about doing this simple thing and then seeing what emerges. It helps to have a context like halqa, because then there's interaction and conversation. It is not impossible to do it alone, but it's very difficult. Rumi and other people, they say, it's a difficult thing to do. How did the Sufis dominate the sciences and the arts of Islam? Just go back and look at the history. Somebody brought up today Omar Khayyam. How did Omar Khayyam in the 11th century create a calendar more accurate than the modern, or till recently, modern Gregorian calendar? How did he do that? At the same time that he was writing beautiful quatrains, at the same time that he was writing other scientific treatises, how did he do that? He did it with enhanced awareness. You see? So if this awareness is enhanced, you will see it is used, which means that if somebody is not a surrenderer, let's say somebody is a magician. See, the problem is a person with ego, they could become a magician. The magician takes the gold, takes the copper off, melts it, and pours a calf from this gold. This is not a good Muslim, is it? Who did he take the gold from? From the people, especially from the women, because they had the jewelry, you see? You follow what I'm trying to say? And he created a calf, and he made it speak. How did he do that? He saw Jibril come down, and he saw him touch the ground, and he took some of the soil. Well, Jibril represents hayat, huh? And he took this ruh, he took it, and he threw it into the cauldron. Now this is what I'm trying to say is that, unfortunately, there is a dark side to spirituality, which is that the ego gains control, and now the alchemy has occurred, but there's danger. You see, so this is very well known. It's in stories, fables. All of the stories of humanity includes the dark side. So you want to always ask: does the person claim they have power? Does the person claim that you should obey them? And you should say, if they have these qualities, you should turn away from such a person, because the person who says the truth, they say, the Sufis, they have no power. They have enhanced awareness does not mean they have power. They are borrowing the enhanced awareness from some other source, you see. Rana ala qulubihim ma kanu yaksibun. So this is, Ustad used this a lot. This is fundamental. So they have a verdigris on their hearts, Rana ala qulubihim ma kanu yaksibun, which was what they had accumulated. Now some people say because of their sins or whether, but the wording here comes from a very specific root, kasb, to gather, to aggregate. So it doesn't have to just be sins. There are all kinds of sins. Some people may not even think are sins. So it's really more the idea of, let's call it irrelevant material aggregating on the surface of the mirror. Ustad, he stressed a lot of poems of Rumi's about the sayqal and the polishing of the heart. And what is the sayqal? It is the zhikr, huh? The zhikr meaning if if one consciousness is true, the road back is to not forget that one consciousness is true, meaning one existence, one being, you see? So to not be diverted, and to, even though we gather things every day, kasp, to gather, to aggregate, they sit on the heart, but in just a few minutes we can clear it again. You see? Because the saikal, there's a saying, there's a saikal for everything, and the saikal for the heart is zhikr, is the zhikr, you see? There's a polish for everything, and the polish for the heart is the meditation, is the zhikr, is the process of the via negativa. So this is very valuable, and this is the people of power. They say we have the power to read minds. We have this, and this. The dervish and the Sufi, they say we have no power. We were given a loan. We were given a gift, and the proof that we have no power is that we still have suffering. We will still die. We still have illness. We still make mistakes. This is a protection for the human being, which is why in the Quran the prophets are described as having made mistakes. So people who don't like that in Quran, they should be very grateful that it's in Quran, because God is saying, I've deliberately chosen people, they are human beings, and they will make mistakes. This is a blessing for you, because if not, you have no hope whatsoever, you see? So you have to avoid all the propaganda about, everybody in Islam is perfect and perfect. No, this is just not true. It's a messy situation, and God wanted us to know that human life is difficult, and people make mistakes. But once we get some experience of the one being, the one existence, what it says in what is bidel? What is bidel? Without a heart. What does that mean? What does bidel mean? What does it mean? Without a heart.
Empty?
What?
Empty yourself, like somebody.
But if you don't have a heart, where did it go?
It's his heart.
Sorry?
It's God's heart, basically.
Who is who?
God. Like
Yeah, he took it back, you see. So, there are two meanings. Like, we can find poetry. One meaning is kind of like in English, we say the person is heartless, really heartless person. What does that mean? They're cold, they're mean. This means something different. Like if we could say in English, heartless, which I have used it that way also in translation, it means that he has reclaimed the castle of the heart. That's why it's your bidil. It's not you, it's you don't own it anymore, you have no control anymore, so you become bidil. So you are actually merged with one consciousness, with the one being. You actually do have a heart, but it's not yours anymore, you see? So yours is like he says, a star in the sky when the sun rises. One consciousness having more access to that. That's what I'm talking about. Over the years, cultivating it, having faith in it, so that when you leave this world, you are with the one consciousness, you see? So we would say in Sufism, you are with him. But I'm talking in a general way, since the conversation is about the senses. And what I'm saying to you is the senses are enhanced when they are the senses of the universal awareness. I have a mind, I have awareness, and I have senses. But compared to that, they are very weak. I surrender, I become devoted. Before I know it, I start to experience the senses of the divine. I have to be careful at that point that I don't start writing a book on spirituality, because I have to now be careful about the dark side that I will become. I will have ego inflation from this, you see, because the ego is still there. So then there's the new struggle, a new jihad on nafs is to not let nafs claim power from this, you see. So then one enjoys much of one's life.